pleasure of having Mr. Vetri Subramanian, Chief Investment Officer in UTI Asset Management. Mr. Subramanian, in his professional career spanning 25 years, has worked as the head of equity with Kotak Mahindra Asset Management Limited and as the Chief Investment Officer with Motilal Oswal Securities. If you are following the Economic Times, you would have spotted his recent article in ET Wealth on how investors should approach risk management. On this note, I'd like to welcome Mr. Vetri.
The next panelist that we would like to invite is Mr. Sundaresan, Head Corporate Risk, Larsen & Toubro. He currently looks after enterprise risk for India's largest infrastructure and manufacturing business, L&T. After a banking career, largely with Standard Chartered Bank, for 22 years in client coverage, he drives sector expertise, driven coverage across clients and strategy, corporate finance and banking-led client dialogue. 2015 was a breakthrough year as he has successfully closed advisory for consolidation of Aditya Birla Group retail business, advisory for sale of a pulp and plantation business by an Indian conglomerate, advisory for sale of real estate portfolio by a diversified conglomerate, and many more. It's a pleasure and honor to welcome you, sir. Besides all this, he runs 2 marathons every year. A leader can balance just not his profession, but as well take care of his well-being too. It's a pleasure and honor to welcome you. Our next panelist, she is a purpose-driven leader. I'm so glad that she has made her time today. It's an honor to introduce Madhura DasGupta Sinha, the UN Award winner, Google Startups Accelerator. And her mission is to add 1 million women to the workforce. What a mission. She is on a mission also to change the diversity equation of our country. And it's perfect for us to have her in Future of India Inc. She has experience building one of India's youngest banks, of leading the merger of the bank with an NBFC. Of course, she served for 17 years in leading MNC banks in various business leadership roles and including growing the P&L to 100 million business. We welcome you, ma'am. I hope you will enjoy this session.
Thank you so much, Madhura. Thank you so much, Sundar and Vetri, for this for coming here. And so, as you have seen, this panel of people are very eager to be part of the Future of India group. And we were just discussing about how what gets you here does not take you there. And so, without much ado, we'll just jump into what everybody is eager to hear from all of you. So they'll be hearing from me a lot during the day. So question for actually a few things which always comes to our mind is, so Madhura, you transitioned from banking to starting your foundation to starting something with such a big purpose and a mission. What were the challenges you went through this transition, and how does one take that leap? You know, many of us here want to do something big, but that leap has always a challenge. Maybe you could throw some light on that part of your journey.
Thank you. Great question, and thank you so much for having me. I think Radhika was extremely purposeful in ensuring that this talk is booked, and I think you planned it really, really well. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for having me. So great to see all of you, and I'm going to ask you some questions. Is that all right? Yes. Okay. So I want to first ask with an easy one. So all of you have been in classrooms at some point in time or the other?
Yes.
Yes. Fantastic. So in the classrooms, there is a 4-letter word, okay, a 4-letter word, which only 3 people like and the others do not like. And all my panelists also, you can answer if you like. Okay, so what do you think that word is? Any guesses what the word is? A 4-letter word which 3 people like and the others do not like.
Read.
Study.
Read, okay. Exam, okay. Test, sorry. Why would 3 people like read and why not other people? Or test, why 3? Anything?
I know it's about passing and scoring.
Okay, passing and scoring. Any other guesses?
Rank.
Rank, who says rank? Absolutely, what's your name?
Harmeet.
Harmeet, you got it, okay? Round of applause for Harmeet. So, obviously, the 3 who get the ranks like it, the story. So, think of India in a classroom. Okay, and all the other countries are students, and India is also students. And this, we're talking about a particular exam, which is called the Global Gender Gap Index. It's something that gets published every year, and there are some parameters on which the students are evaluated, the countries are evaluated. So I'm talking about now the rank of India in this classroom in terms of economic participation of women. Okay? What do you think the rank of India is? This is in a classroom full of 146 students, which is 146 countries. What do you think is the rank of India? Anyone? No Googling, guys. Okay, go for it. What do you think?
Maybe around 80, 90.
80, 90, says Harmeet. Okay, anybody else?
No. This is Vipul.
Sorry, 40? Oh, you didn't.
No, that was not my answer.
Oh, that was not your answer. Sorry, what's your name?
Vipul.
Vipul. Okay, Vipul. Vipul says 80, 90. Anybody else?
120, 130.
120, 130. What's your name? Vaishali says 120, 130. Anybody else?
31. 60?
Sorry?
60.
100? Who says 100? Vaibhav says 100. Anybody else? 30. Ashwini, fantastic. Okay, yes?
60?
60. Okay, let me tell you, great guesses, but all of them are wrong. Okay, the right answer is 143. How would you like to be in a classroom like this? Right? Especially when it's our country which is in this rank. So when I saw this data, this is this year's data, last couple of years, it's only been getting a little worse every year. When I saw the data, I realized that the women's workforce participation has been steadily declining from 32% in 2005 to today we're at 19%. So we've dropped below 20%, which means out of 100 working age women, only 19 are adding to the economy. I felt ashamed. I felt disturbed. What do you guys feel? Because I was seeing the best and the brightest women in the country in India around me. They didn't deserve to be there. We don't deserve to be there as a country. So I thought someone is to do something about the problem, and that's why Aspire was born. I hope my why is clear.
No, it was extremely inspiring, and very honestly, someone has to think about how to make that change happen. And to make that change, definitely the transition happens when you start moving away from a mindset of what happens to me to what happens to we. I think that transition really helps us push forward to take all the challenges. I'm sure your journey would not have been easy. So even in the corporate world, I mean, if I have to ask Sundar at different points of time as to how, to move every ladder up, especially when people reach up to say 15 years, that there is a pretty much set pattern largely. People follow it and they are able to manage it. But the challenge comes when the corporate pyramid really shrinks, after, at maybe a senior management or a head of department level. The number of CXOs are always just about 10, 15 people. But the aspiration is high. So in that zone, how does one take, what are the things one should care about to take the journey and to take to the next level?
So thank you all, and thank you Radhika for giving me the opportunity to speak. First of all, maybe when we all started as management trainees, it may have been true that you progressed 10 years, a decade in your career, and there was scope. We all were part of the lucky generation, maybe 1992 to 2015. That time, the Indian economy expanded, and everything you touched turned into gold. But now it's no longer true, I think. Competition is there right from the entry level, and if anyone cares to see the docu-series called Alma Matters, you can see what happens during a campus placement season. So one of the dean of the colleges says opportunities have expanded 100 times and competition has expanded 10,000 times. I got a call from my daughter saying I can't celebrate my birthday because my best friend's target interview is at 1 a.m. in the morning. So let there be no doubt that competition, especially in our country, is sky high. So question is, how does one equip oneself for this kind of intense competitive pressure? First things first, in the initial stages of your career, you have to be what they call as a technical leader, because that is what organizations, if you are not being an entrepreneur like Madhura herself, if you are joining an organization and working as an employee, you have to be technically sound. So most of our educational system teaches you subjects. It possibly does not make you wise or make you fit for managing a business or running a business. So kindly always keep in mind that learning is key. Learning every day is key. And what you do at work, where it fits in with the overall scheme of the organization, please think about it deeply, because that's what your manager thinks about. He says, I gave you a task and that piece of the jigsaw puzzle fits among 5 more strings, and I have a deadline of next week to do all the 5 pieces fit together. And he sees through you, he sees your work, and he wants to take you almost for granted. So kindly put yourself in your boss's shoes and try and see what he or she wants. So that will give you a dimension which you never really thought existed. It's almost being on this side of the dais as opposed to that side. It's a big difference, and I don't think any educational institute prepares you for it. And as you transition through your work teams, please always, my motto, and it's possibly after so many decades of mistakes, never compete. Never compete. It's not worth it. It's not correct. The real leaders emerge are people who give, not people who keep things to themselves. And that's when you will emerge as a leader. And that's the paradigm. And this is not that I have followed that and have been successful, no. But I have seen others being successful. They do not get perturbed when they get passed over. They do not get perturbed when others succeed. They are almost unflappable. So, rejoice on others' success, but introspect. Most importantly, be known as a good human being. You will be promoted by your peers, not by your superiors. So, if I may just summarize, technical competence is important. Knowing your task, your role, within the overall scope of what your boss wants or what your organization wants is important. Don't lose that perspective. Third, be known as a good human being. Go out of the way to help people. It will come back to you. And always be kind. Always try to help people. And your peers will promote you. You need not, and don't wait for success to come, or don't run for that an exclusive rank or money. It will come, provided you have knowledge, provided you have people acceptability, the universe will conspire to give it to you. This is my 3 decades of experience speaking. Not that I have followed, but it's always easier to teach than to follow.
So it's very insightful, Sundar, because certainly at some level, what also happens is when we constantly keep thinking what works for me, what does not work for me, we start losing out what is working in the big picture. So it was very insightful, especially the way you said promotion by peers. You know, that's like the biggest statement to take away. Your boss is not the only person.
May I add one last thing? A lot of us only focus on what I am good at so and so, I am good at so and so. Always look at yourself in the mirror, because the mirror never lies. Possibly your spouse doesn't lie. These two objects of reference should be important, because unless you can introspect where you really stand, you will not be able to digest the feedback that your superiors give.
True. Very well said. And with that, let's welcome Praveena.
Yeah, we have the pleasure of Praveena Rai joining us today. It's an honor to introduce her. She's the Chief Operating Officer in NPCI and is in charge of formulating the strategic objectives of simple, secure, and seamless consumer experience, which we are using every day to further the cause of the rapid digitalization of India. Ms. Rai holds a bachelor's degree in electronics and communication, so is obviously technically sound, and has a postgraduate degree from IIM Ahmedabad. With over 20 years of extensive experience, Ms. Rai has built expertise in various facets of payments, cards, retail, transaction, wholesale, and commercial banking, to name a few. Prior to joining NPCI, she was leading the cash management portfolio at Kotak Mahindra Bank Limited. Earlier, Ms. Rai has managed payments for Asia Pacific and been the head of sales at HSBC, where she provided solutions to global banking corporations and SMEs in Asia and India, respectively. So please join me in welcoming Ms. Praveena.
Joining us. Indeed a pleasure to have this august company with us today. So we just began the conversations, and Madhura spoke about her purpose and how she took the lead, and Sundar just gave such insightful sessions on how should we think from here on to take the lead to the next level. May I just move to Vetri? Maybe you could share some of your personal experiences as to a challenge that you really faced moving up the ladder in terms of team building, in terms of collaboration with people. Chances are when we are moving from a me mindset to a we mindset, there are issues it's an internal issue, it's not actually an external issue per se, but the questions and the doubts always come as to, okay, I may help somebody, but they may take my credit away. My people are there to steal my work all the time, or maybe the fact that I'm not able to speak up as much. I can think very well, I can share it with my friend, but in comes to presentation, I'm not able to speak up and do. So all these things are in the process of transitioning. Internally you are aware, but externally in action it doesn't come. And seeking help becomes a challenge for people. They just hold on to themselves, not seeking help. people generally, what would be your take on the people as to how should they prepare themselves for this, next change that they are looking for their growth?
No, that's a very deep question, Radhika. So on a Saturday morning, first of all, morning to all of you. Great to see so many of you up here and early. You've already been at it for a long while. I'll just pick up on that pole vault analogy because I think it's interesting. And obviously, I think the point was made that it's about learning to let go what has worked for you so well. But the challenge in the corporate world is that not only you have to let go, but after you land on the other side, either somebody may ask you to do a vault again tomorrow, or worse still in your corporate career, they may tell you, okay, you were very good at this, but tomorrow you've got to jump in the pool and learn how to lead a swimming team, right? So that technical skill, which Sundar made the point, it doesn't get you ahead beyond a point. Right? Honestly, I started my career 30 years ago. We barely sort of knew how to use Excel. And today when I see the youngest kids in my team straight out of business school use Excel, I'm almost downright embarrassed. Because my knowledge of making financial models stopped at a single sheet of a spreadsheet with 20 rows in it. And they make spreadsheets which run macros going across 20 sheets, pulling data from Google, from Python and what. So your technical skills, be prepared that over a 10 to 15 year period, there will be younger people in your organization who will be far superior to what you are, right? And somewhere after you've done a pole vault, as somebody else made the point, your boss is going to come up to you and say, okay, very good at the pole vault, but now jump in the pool and start leading, right? So that is going to happen to you. So really, in a sense, the skills that you need to have in the corporate world to move ahead go back to some of the points Radhika made, which is, you have to make that shift from doing to leading and to enabling. And I think the biggest, sort of transition that one has to make in this is really the fact that suddenly you become responsible for managing people rather than managing outcomes. You are no longer the direct driver of the outcome. All you can do is put your trust in people. So hire the best people. Put your faith in processes. Make processes which can work for your team. And most importantly, inject that team with a culture whereby it can help you get to that goal. Because you are no longer the doer. You are only a manager. You are only an enabler. Right? So I think that's the big transition. And you made the point about, my personal journey. For me, August 21 was like a big, delta change because all my life I've been, analyst, fund manager, head of equity. But a head of equity is like being a captain on a playing field, right? So football World Cup is going on. Every team has its captain, right? So Messi is captain of the team. He's playing on the field, and he's expected to score goals. And all my life I've been like that. I've been on the field. You're a forward, now you've become a captain, but you're on the field. And then suddenly when I became CIO, I'm having withdrawal symptoms. I'm no longer responsible for a single portfolio. I don't have decision-making powers on a single portfolio. It's all done by the team. Of course, I have the entire power of oversight, review and all of that, but I don't directly control it. So literally the transition that I've had to make is from being a forward to being a captain on the playing field to now that guy, if you remember, any of you have been watching the World Cup, those guys who are pacing on the side of the football field, you know who they are? They are coach and manager, right? You can't enter the field anymore. You're standing on the side of the field, you can only keep shouting, motivating and trying various things, but you can't enter the field anymore, right? And that's the point you will all reach in your career. And you have to prepare for that. You're going to be on the sidelines, but execution is going to be done by somebody else. The other one quick point I'll make, and maybe I can say this because I've transitioned quite a few organizations. Maybe Praveena's CV looks similar, that she's worked in different organizations. I think Madhura have been sort of single organizations for a long period of time. You've got to learn how to transition. Why are you only worried about your boss and the opportunities will show up. How do you manage when you parachute into an organization as head of equity? You've got 30 people whom you don't know from Adam or Eve. You didn't hire them, but now you've got to make them perform. You don't know that organization, you don't know its processes, you don't know its culture, you don't know the people, right? Now, how do you make them a cohesive team and make them perform? So I think, that challenge of being a leader, don't restrict yourself in terms of saying, how do I become my CXO in this organization? You might become a CXO in some other organization. How are you going to manage that? You won't know a single person when you walk in there. Right? So it's not easy. I've done that transition several times and I've figured out how to deal with it. But I think that's the mindset you need to build into your head. It may be here, it may be somewhere else. And how am I going to do it and what's my skill set? Right? So I'll just pause there.
Thank you so much, Vetri. The point that really stuck for me was doing to leading to enabling. I think that's the journey of all the leaders, especially aspiring leaders. And I'm sure everybody here is aspiring to be a CXO one day in some organization or the other. And so when you talk about transitions, Praveena, you have gone through few of them, but what really stands out is that today a lot of trending skill sets are coming up. People look for data science is really hot topic. Everybody wants to be there. I have seen finance guys, literally wanting to. They're very good. 20 years they have worked in the industry. Suddenly they feel, oh, data science is more trending and probably giving a better job. And probably I can combine this with that, and they want to take a jump. So few things what stand out to me is in this process, again, the focus becomes only on, they forget about what they are really bringing on table and just moving on to different platforms in the hope that a new trend will help them reach faster. Like startup is a new trend. People just want to jump and take it out. The big question is, how does this, what would be your take for people with 15-20 years of work ex? Most of our people here are with that kind of work ex. They're very good with their technical skill. They're very good with what they're doing right now. But we just saw a corporate pyramid. And then the transitions, as Vetri rightly said, moving from one organization to another organization can be one way to take a growth. And how do we see ourselves in the $10 trillion economy that our country is really looking for the next lead?
Yeah, hey, so great to be here. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
And been listening to some wonderful nuggets of excellence that, I wish I had some paper to take notes. Maybe I'll take some summary from Radhika. But I think the world is about learning a 360 degree, and this 360 degree is not just data science or technical learning. I think it's all facets of learning. And as we become more mature in our careers, this learning becomes more holistic. So I think when we start off the technical kind of learning, and technical does not necessarily mean technology or using technical tools, it means being really good in whatever space you're working in. And then moving into really the larger domain industry, and at the senior most levels, it is pretty much about working with people. But it doesn't take away from the fact that we have to be excellent at whatever space that we are involved and engaged in. And I think each person can define that space to their strength. And I firmly believe that we succeed based on our strength, not based on the latest trend, not based on, that two little things that you have to work on and everybody tells you you're not so great at. Ultimately, we will succeed because of our strengths. And we have to keep working at them. And from this point of view, I like what was discussed earlier, and I look at it from the point of view of persistence, of throwing yourself into different situations, getting out of comfort zone. And this is something I learned in my daughter's school. There's something called comfort zone, then there is a stretch zone, then there is a stress zone. Stress means, that's, beyond that delta that you're able to take. But stretch is where you push yourself and put yourself out there and do something new, do something different. Whether it's in your same role and you pick up some other project, you put up your hand to move to another function in your organization, or sometimes even move out of the organization. All of this is a stretch, right? And what the stretch gives you is this ability to move from this pole vault to swimming pool, right? And it's not an easy ability to learn. It's an ability that can, so everybody's attention is there somewhere. Some action is happening. Yeah, nothing much there. We'll come back here. So it's really about putting yourself out there. There is a risk. There could be derailers. First year in a role like that can be like a complete nightmare. You don't know what's happening. Everything that you did the last 5 years, last 10 years is being questioned. You have maybe a different boss, maybe a different team, maybe a different organization. But that teaches skills that are completely different from doing more of the same. So, when I, for example, look at hiring people, I think been there, done that is just not okay. Somebody's done X role and, I want to hire the person into my team for the same role. I'm like, what energy is this person going to have, right? What passion is this going to have? He's been doing this for 10 years. The energy, zeal, passion comes when somebody is trying to solve a new problem. Jump into something and look at a different way to do something. And putting yourself into those situations, and all of you are part of this forum, which itself means that you've already put yourself out there, right? But putting up your hand and taking those plunges is very important. And it may succeed or not, it does not matter. The ability and the resilience to pick yourself up, learn, say, hey, what could I have done better, navigate those moves and come to a situation where things start working for you is really the dynamic of all of this. And in that, I think data science is all part of that, some little flowers you pick up on the way. If it's important to the job, pick it up, do it, take a course, learn. If you're not great at math, don't bother, don't get overwhelmed by it, right? I mean, it has to work for us. And you have to find those ways to make it work for you, on your strength, on your terms. And these spaces that we put ourselves into should be spaces we enjoy. It cannot be an organization, that is the glamorous role, right? So why am I not being considered for that? But will I enjoy that? Is that my space? I mean, if you take like a really, some product person who's really very intellectual, give a problem, sits down and solves it, fabulous job. Then you have this relationship, very salesy person who just gets energy interacting with customers. If you take that great relationship person and put that person in a senior position in product, I don't know whether it'll work. So one has to work towards one's strengths, build that fungibility. And by the way, many people have made those changes, including myself. When I did this, I was a product head, and then I moved into this role in sales. And my first year was a complete disaster. Complete disaster, right? Because we all undermine those other roles. You have to keep going talking to some customer. I'm a product person. I know all the solutions. I can solve all problems, right? And then you realize that interacting with a customer is a completely different ballgame. How do you manage egos and how do you manage expectations? And it's not about solving the problem at all. So completely different kind of skills that one learns. So I think it's important to pick these up along the way through yourself into situations. And I also agree that it's not about competing. It's about taking these decisions for yourself, for what you enjoy, what you are good at, and being happy with what you are doing. And that automatically leads to success.
Thank you so much. What really caught my eye was move out of your comfort zone, stretch yourself before you stress yourself. So what also reminded me was one of the ways to even stretch your mindset. So we keep talking about mindset and mindset developing from a me to a we, from a small department to understanding the big picture. And often the question comes up as to how do we actually think like that, So I would say one anecdote or one experience which I got is when I signed up for this Everest Base Camp trek. And it was a 10-day long trek. And honestly, mind over matter was after all the training and everything, this was one thing which really came up to me to say that when I stretched myself out there, I could actually stretch myself out for my work. I could actually say that, okay, if I could do so much walking there every day 10 hours, every day putting out yourself in the harsh weather, it came back to me that, okay, this work I have to do, maybe I can stretch myself. Because setting up a community again is not something which is easy, but starting from scratch, every day one has to remind yourself that it's worth it, keep going. So for me, I would just add this, that the mindset is something where you're not just developing a corporate environment. And I know that Vetri and Sundar also are very passionate about their, especially with respect to health. He loves to run and you also love to run. And so how has these developing your passions alongside your busy schedule, even a CXO has only 12 hours or 24 hours like all of us. How do you take time out and manage it for your run, for your office, for your meetings? And maybe you could share something on that. And maybe Vetri can add on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate that I worked most of the time in an organization which believed, at least, in institutionalizing work-life balance. And since I was in sales and I used to work very hard, I was given an executive coach in Australia. And he actually shadowed me for an entire week, me and my spouse. 3 days, from 6 in the morning till dinner time. He would just observe. And he gave us feedback, both me and my spouse, on the 4th and the 5th day. And one of the things he said very clearly was, in India, you are what you do. So worldwide, you draw a 360-degree pie chart. 1/3 is work, 1/3 is family, and the other 1/3 is you, the I. In India, there is no I. It's work and it's family. So he said, this is the paradigm. If you try to make some of it, it will be great. And then he taught me so many things alongside how to socialize, how to interact with clients, how to dress, and so on and so forth. But this one thing stayed with me, and I try to ask my team and whomsoever I interact with to try and find that I time. So if you try consciously, you can do it. No one is doing any cardiac surgery in the next 1 hour, so you can find that time.
Super. Thank you so much.
So the one thing that I always tell everybody is, and I have a lot of people saying, I want to be a fund manager, I want to be a fund manager. I say, remember that if you decide to become a fund manager, when you sleep at night, that portfolio will sleep with you. You can't move away from it. So literally, if you're a fund manager, that work-life balance, yeah, I mean, you can figure out how to create time for family and all of those things. One practice that I always have is, if I have 30 days of leave, use all 30 days in the year, right? Never let leave accumulate. Use it. Because that's the only way to energize and feel good about getting back to office on a Monday morning. And I've always thanked myself, or thanked my stars rather, that I've always had this job where I've loved showing up at work. Right? So I actually feel lucky that somebody is paying me to do what I'm doing, because I would have done this for free. Right? So I just love the stuff I do. So it's tricky, but I think you just need to figure out how to create those break times where you have something that you can focus on. Right? For Sundar, it's running. I used to run, so now I've given up on the running and found other stuff that I can do, whether it is rediscovering playing badminton or round of kickboxing in the morning. But you need to create those, I times, as Sundar rightly said, to break away and take those vacations. I think those are just, amazing opportunities to sort of re-energize and recharge. But I think that work-life balance is, there's no simple solution to that. Some of you might just enjoy doing work, catch up on a Saturday, Sunday. So be it. You don't have to have rigid rules around it. The only point I would make is don't drive your teams to, follow extreme behaviors if you have that, and ideally lead by example, right? So I had a great boss in my first stint way back in 1992. He was very clear, 6 p.m. pack up and leave, right? But I think he was the inspiration for 95% of the team who worked for him. And I was very clear the day my elder daughter was born, because prior to that I had worked Saturdays, Sundays, all of that. As a boss, whatever happens, 3 days a week I'm out of the office at 6 p.m. sharp, right? But it was just implementing that one simple regimen, which is, I think always driven me to say that, look, work is work. Sometimes you may have to work from home, but, figure out how to create that me time for yourself. So I don't have a magic solution or want to tell you how to do it, but, put it at the top of your agenda, it'll get done. Don't think about it, you'll never achieve it.
Superb. Don't think about it and it will get done. And that's really a fantastic thing, because I think we always plan only what is important and what is relevant for us in our, I'm sure everyone here present tries to do a to-do list every day, or practically have tried multiple styles of to-do list, but most times, sometimes it works, most times it fails probably. So I guess having that flexibility, at the same time not being too harsh on yourself, really helps in the process. When you rightly said that there are sometimes some things takes the priority over the other, so don't be too rigid with yourself, is something fantastic thing. How many of you are here who are from mutual fund? Okay, few of you. Okay, amazing, super. So Madhura, one thing I wanted to ask is that starting anything, they say that leaders' journey is generally alone. You are at the leadership, you are alone. But at the same time, it's your team which is there with you. So the thought always comes to me is, one is the song called Ekla Chalo, which tells you about how you walk the path alone, come what may. And then there is one more song which is We Will Rock It, We Will Rock You, and so which is again a team effort. How do you transition, or what is it that makes teams build? You've started from the scratch, built a team, now on a mission to move to building a 1 million community. What are the things that you focus when you are building your team?
Great question, thank you. And just taking off from Vetri and Sundar said, I don't work, okay, because my passion, my profession, my everything actually converges at Aspire for Her. So I was looking at all these, my wonderful bank of friends, and I suddenly realized that I have come such a long way from there. And that's when building something is very different. It is an uncomfortable stress situation at times. I must say that. I love these words that I learned today. So when I started Aspire for Her, I spent 25 years in the banking industry, and I felt very afraid because A, this goal was very audacious. B, this is a problem that's been haunting our country for the last 15 years. Who am I to come and try and solve this suddenly? I'm no magician. So all of those feelings of self-doubt and fear and imposter syndrome, all of that was gnawing at me, and that's what I guess happens when everybody just jumps into a pool which is full of unknowns. But we started on the 8th of March 2020, and right after that, what happened?
Lockdown.
Right? So the world changed. So all the models that we had in mind to say, oh, we'll do this and we'll do that, all of that sort of went out of the window. But there was a small group of people, okay, who really, they were my first, that was my first team. And so their daughter was one of them. I had a small group of people who were all 18, 19, 20 years old. And they were looking for purpose because their exams had got cancelled, they didn't know they were going back to college or not, they didn't know anything. And they were in this, the whole world, the state of uncertainty, of despair, of a complete mayhem, right? So, and that was how my team started. And I found that this small group of people, were incredibly courageous, were incredibly motivated, and they thought very, very differently. So, we said, no, we want to add 1 million women to the workforce by 2025, and we said, let's add something to this. Let's say by using the power of communities and networks, and that's what we did. They helped us build the vision and the mission. They helped us build the initial strands of what Aspire for Her was. We don't have an office. We don't have any working hours. Okay? But all my people, and I think that's an important element of what all of you should be looking for. When you're looking for your teams, all my people who join Aspire for Her today are completely self-motivated. I don't have to ask them to do anything. I think that answers the question.
So it's very amazing. The secret behind making somebody self-motivated would be my next question actually. What is the secret sauce that you put that people are eager to work for you, eager to work for what it takes it to where it is?
So I think, it's the purpose that we drive, and people love the fact that we're trying to change the world. The fact that many others have tried to do it, but the fact that it's urgent, it's imminent, it's critical that we change it. Because this is, as per McKinsey, this is $1 trillion opportunity for our country. And if we don't do it now, it is such a tremendous shame. We have the highest number of educated women in the country. And the kind of stories we see, I think that's the one thing that probably I'll leave you with, is the impact that we see every day that drives us. When people ask me who's my inspiration is a young woman called Preeti Kate. She's in her 30s. She lost her husband to COVID during the brutal second wave. She had never worked before. She never knew what LinkedIn was. She joined our community. We started a community called Not Alone. We have 15 communities, and Not Alone is one of the communities that we started as a response to tragedy. She joined our community, and today she runs an abacus class out of Dhule in Maharashtra. She has 62 kids who study abacus with her. She started winning awards. Her kids have started winning national level awards, and she posts about it in LinkedIn, where her husband's ex-colleagues from Bayer actually laud her and cheer her down the way.
That's really a very, very inspiring story to hear, Madhura. What I would like to ask Praveena is, creating impact out of the corporate race is probably seems something very possible for people. But when you are in the corporate world, within the framework, how does one really move to lead a purpose-driven journey or create impact? What would be your thought on that, and how would you like to address that problem? Because we figured out that self-motivation comes from purpose or from a reason or from a meaning for what you're doing, and when you're in this pyramid, can you actually lead that life where you do what you love doing and taking it forward?
Yeah, sort of, I'm going to sound like, it's more of the same what I said last time, but I think it again comes down to the individual. It comes down to the self and what works for us and what is our individual purpose and what excites us and what makes us passionate about something, right? And I feel like Madhura, and interestingly, I don't know, it's strange, I felt like that my entire career, that I love whatever work I do, and of course I'd like to be paid something for it, but it didn't feel like a burden. It didn't feel like, oh my God, I have to get up and do this. But I think it was really to do with how I was able to look at every situation and make it work too, the way I wanted it to work for me.
Is there any personal story that you would like to share, which was that determining point?
I think it's just a whole series of whether it's a multinational job or an Indian organization, and it's very interesting that people appreciate it, and I don't think we realize it, right? So we go there saying what is expected of me. Rather, if we look at a role and look at a function and say, what can I do for this, right? What can I bring to the table? That will create an impact. What's happening now, and suppose I wasn't here, what will continue to happen? And because Praveena came into the picture, what is going to be the difference? And once that is the perspective to every role, and I don't think it has any level, junior, middle, senior, kuch nahi hai. It has to do with right from an entry-level individual who can create that impact. And the moment we align that self-purpose to impact, I think that's when the standout happens, that's when the real appreciation happens. And then you just kind of take it through. So I think impact has nothing to do with, being part of, what's happening in some social scale, or, it's only about social impact. Every single job we do has impact. You impact your team, you impact the happiness of your team, the sense of achievement of your team, you impact your organization, you impact suppliers, you impact the safety of customers, how ethical you are and how you design a product and how you distribute a product. So I think we undermine or maybe don't understand the impact we make every day in the jobs we do, and no one has to tell us that. So if we can define that impact we want to make and we go down that path, it's all over.
Super. Thank you so much. Before we, kind of come to the last leg of our session today, just I would like to ask if somebody has any questions here. Yeah, can we have the mic there?
My question is to Madhura. So I see you as a women workforce enabler. So most of the dropouts of women happens this post-maternity period. Most people, they don't get back to work. Apart from an individual, how do you think we as a community can contribute to this economic strengthening from a women perspective? Apart from just motivating others or something, because a part of women are completely enabled and they are able to contribute, whereas other part of the women, they don't have opportunities or something. Apart from being an individual, as a community, what do you think is that one vital element or one primary thing that we can do so that we as a community can contribute in the strengthening of the economy?
It's a great question, and you've actually just defined the essence of Aspire for Her in your question. This is exactly what we're trying to do as a community. So what we do is we try to change mindsets, and you're Ashwini, right? Vaishnav. So we try to change mindsets, and we use a model which we think is somewhat scientific, constantly trying to improve on it, but we somewhat cheekily call this model EQ is equal to MCQ. And in this model, everybody has a role to play, not just women, also men, as supporters. So EQ is where we want every woman in India to be. So, which means we want them to be in either employment, entrepreneurship, or education, which leads to one of these two. And if that is a desired outcome, then what are the critical success factors? So I think it's structures, because again, I have been a banker for long and an engineer for a few years. So M stands for mentors and role models. All of you sitting here, and that's what my appeal to all of you would be, that all of you sitting here can be mentors. All of you here can be supporters and role models. Remember that the minute you take a step, there are a whole lot of juniors in your own organization, in your own circles, who are looking at you. The second piece is courses, cohorts, and learning. That's why we try to fit it into a C, but it's all about learning. And I think Radhika mentioned something very interesting around learning. When you are learning, you also encourage others to learn. And I love the bit about non-competing because that's what a community does. The community ensures that you are not alone. The community ensures that if there's difficulty, they will figure out the hurdle for you. They will help you surmount those barriers, right? That's the second piece. The third piece is what we call giving career previews. And this is something all of you can do. All of you have 15 years of career, right? And there are so many women today who are actually trying to understand the corporate world. Very few of them have relatable role models, in their immediate network. Give them the access, give them the opportunity, open up the door for you. Your organization did not do everything. You can jump up and say, hey, let me do this, okay? You can do it as a part of a spy firm, or you can do it as a part of many other communities. I'm sure Radhika's community will be a fantastic community to also work with, network with, and find those people who need that help, right? Offer them, open up doors and windows of their minds to new kinds of career opportunities. Some of you are from financial services, some of you are from other careers. New age career options. I'm sure some of you are from new age career options. And the last bit is the strength of the community. The community, what it does, and that's where we get our energy, that's where we get the power. The community connects with each other, motivates each other, and elevates each other. And collectively, they find solutions to problems. I think the power of the community is very undermined in what we do every day. And we see that in our huge return to work community, where there's a woman who's trying to say, I haven't been to the work, I'm not in the work for the last 10 years, I haven't been to a single interview. 10 years later, I'm walking into this interview, what do I do? We find 10 people putting their hand up and saying, we want to help you. Come into a mock interview with me. How do you negotiate your salary? How do you figure out where you fit into the organization? If your junior becomes your boss, then what will you say? If your batchmate is earning twice as much, then what will you think? How do you create that emotional resilience? So that's how the community helps. And through this model, equation if you will, we try and ensure that the community can be built. Our firm belief is you can build any community through this equation, and you can do it on your own, in your own time.
Topic close to my heart, so I'm going to jump in with one point without any Einsteinian equation involved. But this is just, that's that point of change that you spoke about, right? After a baby, when the woman is trying to get back to work, I think is a very, very, very sensitive spot, right? It's a point in time. I'm sure we have many fathers here, and I'm sure we have some others here. The man does not go through that pressure of saying, are you going to get back to work after a baby, right? But this is a question that family, sometimes the husband, and sometimes, the extended group is going to be continuously posing on this woman who had no other idea, but is now constantly having this social expectation. Now you're going to be available, now that you've got a child in the house, and then there is this guilt and all that rubbish that comes in, right? So it's very important that there are role models. And I think the more women leaders we see, those role models get created. Even if all of this stuff is very, very good, but I think just to see that, hey, there's somebody else who's doing it, and why can't I, is an important source of strength. And my only advice would always be to just stay firm and persistent, because I think it's just that 1 or 2 years, and typically once the ecosystem senses that, hey, this lady isn't going to give up, they rally around to support. So the situation turns so quickly, but in that moment, that 1 or 2 months, if that lady gives up, then the story is over. And not over, Madhura will step in and help her after 5 years. But it's such a shame, yeah. It's such a shame, and I really hope that more than the women here, the male leaders do a lot in this regard everywhere to create this change.
So that's what we hear from the Power Pact women out here. We will take one last question.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for sharing the wonderful insights. My question is for Vetri.
Maybe you could just tell your name first.
Rupali, yeah. Vetri, you mentioned about, transitioning into a new organization with 30 plus people, none of them you will hire. And I was hoping to share some more insights around the challenges that you faced and some tips around, moving into a new organization and managing a large team out there.
Sure. So the first thing I think, in that kind of situation is you've got to actually train yourself to listen more and speak less, which doesn't necessarily come automatically, right? Because all of us are been conditioned that if you want to get noticed, you've got to speak, right? But the first thing when you go into a new organization, you realize, and I've done this more than once, but here it was more challenging. It's a very well-established organization, actually. So you've just got to learn to listen, right? So I would say I literally spent the first 6 months just listening to people. Don't do anything. Just keep listening to people, let them keep coming with whatever issues they have, whatever sort of problems they have. Equally make sure that you reach out to every stakeholder who's involved, as a peer with your function, to start getting their picture, their expectations, how they see it. And I would say that learning was pretty much the trick of then figuring out when to start the engine or how much change is required and where that change is required. And the other very critical element, even though I had a sort of mandate saying go in and do what you do, I was very clear on day one that don't do anything about people for at least 1 year. Because you've got to give people a chance to put their best foot forward so that any decision you take about people, and that's going to be the hardest decision any of you will take in your career. When you actually become literally judge, jury in terms of saying this person fits in my team, or not only doesn't fit in my team, but doesn't fit in the organization. But don't take those decisions early because you don't want to be somebody seen as just firing blindly in all directions. And thankfully, as it turned out, I didn't have to take any of those harsh people decisions. It took me 2 years to take a call that if there was one individual who didn't fit, but I took 2 years to finally say, I've got to make this change. So don't be scared of making that change, but don't rush into it. And just listen and bide your time. I would say that was to me the most effective way of how I could do it. And I've always enjoyed sitting on an open floor. I've never enjoyed sitting in a cabin. But a conscious choice I made when I came here is go sit in a cabin. And the reason I did that for the first 2 years, I said if people want to talk, there's no way that will happen if I sit on the open floor. So actually I first spent the first 2 years sitting in a cabin. And the day I felt I knew everybody or I knew what was to be done, I said now I'm exiting the cabin, and I went back and sat on the floor. So these are just small things, but it's these small tweaks that send a message to everybody and at the same time help you sort of figure out how to deal with that change. So I know if that sort of helps you listen, but just listen. And unfortunately, nobody teaches us listening skills, when we are growing up. They only taught us speaking skills, right? Nobody gets sent to a listening course.
Thank you so much, Vetri, for that very, it was, I think, a very important point you touched upon, because listening is one of the most important skill to develop as a leader also, which is what you very, very rightly mentioned it, and I'm so happy Rupali asked this question. So I think we have now, I would just like to summarize from our discussion. We've come to the end of our session. So thank you so much, Vetri, Sundar, Madhura and Praveena for this, for spending your Saturday mornings with us. And to just summarize, I think the topic we had was CXO future skills. And as we transition from wherever we are to the next big role that we need, few things which really came up prominently, the way Madhura was so passionate about her purpose, the way Sundar shared about his insights on how to work in a collaborative environment, how to ensure that you don't compete with others, you can compete with yourself. The most important factor which Vetri said is developing the listening skills. So which is very interesting because people always sign up for communication skills. program. First thing when they want to make a change is, I'm not good with communication, I will sign up. Where I have to do public speaking. The first thought of a leader is always public speaking, but you actually gave a very, very important point that to become a public speaker, first start listening, and that's where you start. And the last and the most beautiful thing about what Praveena shared about her journey, about from moving out of continuously keeping yourself out of the comfort zone, living life to your passion, enjoy what you're doing, and keep giving back and keep creating impact in every role that you go, and ask yourself what is it that you can give than asking what you can. And which is something when Sundar had initially started off saying that don't keep saying what you're getting and your salary, money, everything will come, but first ensure what you can give back to whichever place. I think that summarizes very well about, I hope I have covered the conversation, what we should look for ourselves as we are transitioning and wanting to.
I have one more point before I
Yes.
have to give up this mic. So she's really got us going here, right? And I think it's very important because I observe it and I've seen this all my life, that we think of growth as titles. You know, am I a VP? Am I a director? Am I a, like we call it a CXO, right? Am I a CXO? Am I a MD? You know, there are organizations who have like MDs by the kilo now, right? CXOs also by the kilo, by the way. So I honestly have always felt that these titles and grades and all are like this Maya created by the HR department. That imaginary ladder you can keep climbing. And you think you're there, they'll put one more step. You know? Then suddenly it's 2 steps to that what you wanted. So if you're in your mind, if you're clear that that is an imaginary ladder, you focus on the roles you want to do. Right? And you define it in whatever way you want, right? I look at it as impact, you may look at it in different lenses. What is the role you want to do? And as long as you're in roles that you enjoy and that are relevant and important to the organization, etc., I think those imaginary titles and all will follow. You target the title, it might lead you to suboptimal decisions.
Superb. Thank you so much, and may I request Rupa?
First of all, I would like to thank Mrs. Radhika Balakrishnan for creating a space to share with CXO achievers and giving us an opportunity to listen to their secrets, the nuggets on the notes of excellence. Thank you so much. If you cannot learn to fight like a lion, then you will never be a king. I wanted to just quickly touch upon, we sleep with the CXO ambition. CXOs are not a title for us too. We are a group, a community of people fueled by unwavering commitment to bring value to the table, to make an impact, to create that difference in the lives of the people we work with, the community we live in, and the customers we serve. E is equal to MC squared. We will never forget it. 1/3 of the pie, institutionalizing your well-being, the I space. We will never forget it, sir. Being the coach, being the mentor, not giving the field, where you can play. Yes, sir, we will build that quality to play with people, to make them become the leader. We create the leaders. Bring the energy, zeal, passion when it comes to different problem solving. Being happy with what you are doing, enjoying and getting paid for. Thank you, ma'am. We will assure you that we will be done. On behalf of the entire CXO community, I would like to thank the Honorable Chief Guest because Future of India Inc. program cannot be complete without your presence and your inspiring words. I thank you from the bottom of our heart to make us understand the most important thing to remember is to choose the path we know we can walk down, not the path that others tell to take us to choose. Thank you so much.